Hello and welcome, travel agents. Today we have Mike Archer doing our last lesson, number 7 and 8 of the series. And if you just joined us today, don't worry, he's going to start a new session of series in 2 weeks, and we're going to start all over at lesson 1. How you doing today, Mike?
Oh, I'm doing okay. I'm fighting a cold, but other than that, it's going to be a gorgeous day in Seattle. It's going to be about 85 and nice and warm, so I'll get outside after this. So, yeah, I sound like a frog today because my voice is a little deeper with this cold. So, everybody bear with me. If I start hacking up a lung, you'll understand why. So, we are on page 24, and this is lesson 7 and 8 go together. And they are the culmination of everything that we've been working toward since we started this 6 weeks ago. And I just wanted to show you a picture of down below is my two brothers. Ron, you know, on the left, and some of you may or may not know Steve. Steve is 76 today. Today's his birthday. So we wished him a happy birthday earlier this morning. And then mom and dad. So this picture was taken in 91 when they had just opened up one of their a new office in Glendale. They needed some more space, so they found a larger space. And this picture was taken right after they moved in. And the guiding principle behind Archer Travel Service that mom and dad instilled in all of us is that sales and selling is a relationship business, and it's been the guiding principle of Archer Travel Service. And it's what sustained all of us, those Ron and Steve in the travel business and me in the yearbook industry. And it's just what kept us going. Every time we would talk about business, Dad would always say, Dad had an innate sense of when it was time to reach out to one of his clients. And he was always worried that he was going to lose somebody. And in the relationship part of the business, his thought was, what have I done for them lately? He was always, even if they weren't going anywhere, he'd call them up and take them out to lunch and see what they were doing and how the family was doing. He had, I mean, if you talk to people in Glendale about a mom and dad, they were not business associates, they were friends. And this is kind of, I mean, I'm not suggesting that you do that because in this day and age, it's a little harder to do. However, if you keep that principle in mind, what we're about to talk about today, rather than becoming a tug of war on wondering if they're going to buy from you or not, it becomes a collaborative process where they can't wait to say, yes, I want to do business with you. So I just want you to keep that in mind, that and you're going to hear it all the time. Selling is a relationship business, and Jose and I constantly pound on that. So having said that, you guys should be on page 24, lesson 7, and we're at the bottom of the triangle. Finally, we're managing our time. So you notice presenting your program and making the decision, the two of them together take up half that triangle and the smaller half. So if you've done the relationship and the questions part right, presenting the program and making the decision, it just becomes a logical culmination of the entire process. So this is how you manage your time in that process. And so now in the science of selling, where we are now is you've got all the information. You have put together your proposal from the lessons you learned last week on how to figure out what it is they want, show them what they want specifically. Remember, features and benefits are precise and specific. So now you're going to present and you're going to decide. So how do you do that? This is lesson 7, the presentation, and this goes along with Jose's Wednesday training, or whenever he's doing them now, of the presentation of the travel quote. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to set the agenda. All right. When I first started selling, I had a really good mentor, and he always told me, he says, when you're talking to people and your books was a drawn out process. Sometimes it took up to a year to sell people, because they typically didn't make their decisions until the spring. And I might have been calling on them, started calling on them in October, November, but typically they didn't make the decisions till April or May. So his advice was, tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. So that's what the agenda is. The agenda is, tell them what you're going to tell them. All right. So all you're going to do is you're going to talk about it. All right. So you just set the meeting. It's like the initial benefit statement. Why are you there? All right. So now the next thing you're going to do is you're going to do what's called the 3-step model. This is tell them what you're going to tell them. This is the tell them part. And this is the crucial piece to this, because remember, early on, I told you in the asking questions phase that when you started asking questions, you immediately knew that you had answers to their questions. And I told you, especially you right of the line expressives and drivers, hold your tongue, don't sell until you have all the information, because that's when your telling tensions were going up. Now, you right of the line people, this is where you're telling tensions, you get your telling tensions out there. You left of the line, you wonderful analyticals and amiables, this is the part of the sales process that you might have a little bit of trouble with, because you are not naturally tellers. You are askers. You ask questions. So this process now just kind of flip-flops from the asking questions phase. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to recall one of the needs. Excuse me, guys. You're going to recall one of the needs, and then you're going to talk about that specific need and that specific need only. It's very critical that you do that. You recall one of the needs at a time. Now, if you want to get a leg up, when you're in the asking questions phase, and I think we covered this in that lesson, we might not have, so I'll do it here. In the asking questions phase, if you really want to show your stuff off, after you've got all the information out and you've done is there anything else, and they say no, your final thing says, okay, this is all the information I have. Now, of all the things that we've talked about, give me the top 3 things that you want me to really be prepared for. What are the things that interest you or concern you the most that we should address first? So boom, boom, boom. Now, if they don't have any, fine, don't worry about it. But if they give you 1 or 2 or 3 things that they are really interested, excited, or have concerns about, those are the very first things that you want to address when you go in and you actually make your presentation. So you're going to recall one of those needs. And if you've got priorities, those are the first ones you go. Then you're going to talk about how you can fulfill that specific need. All right. So that's where your features, that's where your feature, benefit, and proof comes in. So you're going to look at your notes. You're going to take them with you. Say, okay, we talked about the dates that you needed to be. Here's the dates that work best for you based on what you've told me. Or you wanted to go to the Caribbean and you wanted to see this, this, and this. Here's 2 cruises within your dates that I think will fit what you want to do perfectly. And then you lay out what's going on each one of those cruises, or whatever the information is. Then third, you need to make sure that they continue to be on the same page with you. So you need to ask, this is where you ask that direct question, the yes or no question. This is where you're trying to elicit, are they with you or are they not with you? And you can ask them, how does this fit? How does what I'm presenting fit in with what you had in mind? So you gauge their interest. So you tell them, recall the need, present to that need, and then confirm that you have met that need. This is critical, because if you don't confirm this, this opens the door for them to give you an objection that we're going to talk about in a minute. That leaves them open to give you an objection down the road that you may not be able to handle because you haven't gotten their confirming question here. So because the objection usually comes in when you ask them what they think and if they're going to try to, if you want, they want to buy from you. It's better to address it while you're making the presentation where you're both relaxed, there's no stress, and you want to make sure that you're both on the same page. Now, once you've done that, so you've gone through your first one, then your second one, you're going to repeat this process for every need, concern, or desire that you found. You just keep going until you run out of stuff. All right. That's the key. All right. So that's why I want you to, well, you want to sell everything at one time, not need, sell, need, sell. This is much more logical. It's much more ordered, and it's a lot easier for them to understand where you're going, and they see the entire program laid out for them. All right. Now, a couple of things I want you to pay attention to. Let's see where we are here. So stay on page 24 and go to the top of the right-hand column. And I want you to circle that paragraph, because a lot of times, and I know you've had this happen to you, is that you go in, people talk to you, and then they go, wouldn't you agree? Do you agree? Isn't that correct? What they're doing is they're trying to force you to concur with what they say, because they think that's agreement, and that's when they start especially the high pressure salespeople especially do this. So you want to avoid those questions like the plague. You get your confirming question, you get them to buy into what you're saying by saying, can you share with me what you think about what I just proposed? So you keep it low key, you keep it informal, and you keep it where there's no stress. Because I don't know about you guys, but whenever somebody asks those questions of me, my hackles go up and I get under stress, because I know exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to coerce me into believing them to make it easier for me, for them to ask me to buy. So it's a favorite tactic of the high pressure people. Now, at the bottom of the third paragraph, it starts with they're going to want to talk. So what's going to happen now, remember, as you're presenting to them, just like you ask them questions and your telling tension went up because you know how to sell them, you know what you wanted to sell, their telling tensions are going to go up, especially if you've hit everything on the nail, and they can now start to see, wow, this is what we can do, and this is what we can do. So their telling tensions are going to go up. That's why it's crucial. It's absolutely crucial that you keep using the conversational circle here. You monitor their telling tensions, and how you do that is by asking them, can you see how this would benefit you? Or can you share with me how this fits into what your plans are? And then let them tell you. All right. And especially you want to avoid lock on, lock out here. Lock on, lock out is death. It's death for you, and it's death for them. Because if they've gone into lock on, lock out, remember, just like you haven't heard a word they've said, they won't have heard a word you've said, and you might both miss something in the translation. So it's really, really critical that you follow this 3-step model, especially the confirming question. All right. Now, the telling tension that they have usually takes one of two forms, and pay attention because this is on the test. And it's under the subheadline consistent monitoring, it takes in, they're going to want to challenge something that you've said, or they're going to get interested and they'll stop you and they'll start having a lot of questions. If they interrupt you and start asking questions, those are good signs. Because a lot of times those will be buying signals. And by the way, they will give you buying signals by their interest. So if you're in the middle of a presentation and you can tell that they're really ready to go and they want to sign up with you, you can stop your presentation right there on the spot and says, wow, it sounds like you're really excited. What do you say? Should we get the process going? And if they say, no, I want to hear the rest of what you got, that's fine. But this comes under the nothing ventured, nothing gained part of the selling. So, but be sensitive, be aware that they may be moving closer toward you, or they may be moving farther away from you. They may want to challenge some of the things you're telling them, especially if they've done some of their own research, and because they know where they want to go, and they might find some different things from you. And a lot of times what this will involve will be price. A lot of times it's going to be price. So that's how you make your presentation. So now we're going to move on to page 28. The final lesson, making the decision. How do you hit your target? And this goes along with Jose's training on commitment, stalls and objections, close, making the booking, terms and conditions, insurance. I'm only going to address the commitment and the stalls and objections part and the close. All right. So first thing you want to worry about is this is the tell them what you told them part. You've made your presentation. You've done many summaries on each one of your needs. And now you're going to make an overall summary statement. And that summary statement is you're just going to recall once again everything you talked about. We discussed this, and this, and you got excited about this. We had some questions here. And so you make your summary statement and then you ask them to buy. It's that simple. Now, I was a really low-key sales guy. So my questions would be, wow, it sounds like you're ready to move on this. Should we go talk to the principal? Or if it was the purchasing director, I say, are we ready to sign a contract? What else do we need to do? I've already gotten the approval from the teacher and the assistant director, the assistant principal, and I have their initials here on the contract. Are you okay with this? Do you have any questions? Can we move forward? And then we'd sit and talk, and 9 times out of 10 he'd sign. Or if I was in a smaller school that didn't need a purchasing director, we'd have the teacher and the assistant principal or the activity coordinator there at the same time. I was presenting the program, and then most of the time the assistant directors did what the teacher wanted to do, because the yearbook was the single most hated class in the high schools because it was so time consuming and nobody wanted to do it. So if they did get a yearbook advisor, they wanted to keep that person happy. So I always had to keep that in mind. So it's just a low key. Or if they were really excited, man, you're really excited. I could have the kit of supplies in here next week. All I need is to send the contract into the plant. What do you think? So it's just little things like that. That's how I closed. You're going to have to, this is something for some of you, this is probably going to be a little bit difficult because the fear of rejection starts to kick in. Listen, don't worry about that. Like I told you in the very first lesson, you go in with a smile on your voice, a smile on your face, and you show them how they can help you. If you have gotten this far, they're going to talk to you. They're going to be interested in hearing what you have to say and wanting to do business with you. So I always had, and this was the way I ran my territory. I had my A list, my B list, and my C list. My A list was the people I knew were hot. They were unhappy where they were. They were looking to make a change, and I was all over them. My B list was people that I had been working on for maybe a year or two that were kind of okay, and they were thinking about moving around, but they weren't quite ready to pull the trigger. And then my C list was all my potential customers that were happy where they were. And so I just said, okay, hey, great. You know what? I'm not going to get everybody, but would you be comfortable with me sitting in second position in case something ever happened to in your current situation where the company screwed up your yearbook, or the rep that you're with now quit? And that happened a lot, where I was sitting in second position and a rep would quit, and I just went in and I signed a lot of business in that rep's territory. So you have to figure out how to run your territory, how to run your client base based on how you think, how you can gauge their interest. All right. So, and these, like I said, these closing questions can come in anywhere along the line. And so I've given you some examples that are on the left-hand side of 28. So now there's two things that can happen other than them. There's three things that can happen. Number one, they buy. Number two, they give you an objection, which means there's something that you didn't address because it's hard, it's fast, and it's true. All right. So we're going to go over to page on the right-hand column called Resolving Stalls and Objections. All right. So a lot of people that are in sales will talk to, well, I overcame this objection. Well, overcoming implies that I win, they lose proposition. And that's not what selling is about. Remember, you're in a relationship. So what you want to do is, I want you to think of it in terms of, okay, I've got an objection here. How do I resolve it? All right. So an objection is something that's hard, it's fast, it's true, and it cannot be changed. All right. That's an objection. That's something that you can get your hands around and you can talk about it. A stall is used whenever they don't want to make a decision. And we've all been in both situations. Well, let me think about it and I'll get back to you. I guarantee you, if you let that stand, you are not going to get the sale, because who knows, they may be using you to beat down. Maybe they have a cousin Freddie over on the sidelines that's also in travel, and cousin Freddie's giving them this, and they want to verify that cousin Freddie's doing something good for them. So they may call you just to see what you can do for them, because they want to prove to themselves that cousin Freddie's not screwing them because they're related. I had that happen to me all the time in yearbooks. Somebody was with a longtime rep, and they would call me and say, we're thinking of looking around. We want you to come in and give us a proposal. So I would immediately ask, I said, is something going on with your other rep? You've been happy for years. You've told me you've been happy for years. I could usually figure out that that's what they were doing. They said, no, that rep's fine. I've been told I have to look around. I said, well, okay, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I know you don't want to change. And that always surprised them when I was honest with them, because they weren't used to that. They think all us sales reps are all scrambling for business. And it's just as easy for us to tell the client no as it is them. There's some people I didn't want to work with because they just weren't pleasant people. You're going to find that out as well. There's going to be some people that you might call on and you get halfway through the process and you're going, whoa, this person's way more trouble than they're worth. I don't know if I want to continue with this. So, but anyway, if they make a stall, we're going to show you how to get around that stall. And there's a 4-step model to it. All right. Now, at this point in an objection or a stall, telling tensions are going to go up and backup behavior could be dangerously close. So you need to be really, really careful how you handle this. And the solution is over on page 29. So it's called the 4-step model. So closing questions, we talked about resolving stalls and objections. So the 4-step model is simply this: acknowledge, remember your feedback in the conversational circle. So I want you, so as all of these skills that we've taught you, I'm hoping that you see how everything that we've talked about all comes into play at some point in the entire selling process. That's why it's a science. It all works together as long as you have the whole picture. So reduce the tension, acknowledge. I understand that there's an issue here. All right. So gain a commitment to act and use a hypothetical probe. If we can come to an agreement on what the issue is, and you give me a chance to fix whatever it is that is of concern to you, would you still be willing to move forward? And if they say yes, you're good to go. And if they say no, then at that point, you just stop everything. Say, okay, what is the real issue here? What am I missing? Because you have to get out of them why they are reluctant to move forward. The worst sales call I ever made was when I inherited. Amanda, did I tell them this story before about the ship that blackballed us?
I think so. I think you did it in less than like 3 or 4.
Oh yeah, that's right. So anyway, I had this happen to me, and I used a hypothetical question. They had 15 or 16 different things that they needed fixed. And I says, okay, guys, if I can take care of this, will you unblackball me and give me a shot? And the upshot was I fixed it and I signed the contract for their next book, and everything was fine. Nothing happens until you pursue it. You have to pleasingly and pleasantly pursue what it is that you want, which is their business. All right. So gain a commitment to act. If you can fix the problem, will they continue to talk to you? And if they say yes, then you resolve the issue creatively, whatever it is. You go back over your notes, you go back over your questions and their answers. It could be something as simple as their dates changed. It could be something as simple as their budget. They're in the position where they can spend a little bit more money, but they're reluctant to tell you that. It could be anything, as long as you can resolve it creatively. And then once you've done that, you go back and have we fixed this? Has this solved the issue? Are you comfortable now that we can make this happen? And you continually get those small yeses. Okay. Yes. If they give you no's at any time, you stop and keep addressing that issue until they give you a yes. And it might be that you're not going to get to a yes with them. So you're going to have to regroup and figure out what's going on, or maybe the sale isn't going to happen. And you're not going to get everybody. I mean, let's face it, but you got to put yourselves out there. And then finally, go back and ask for the decision. Okay, we've talked about this and we fixed this. We fixed this. We fixed this. Are you comfortable with everything that we talked about and fixed? Yes. Okay. What do you say? Are we ready to move forward now? Can I get your signature on the credit card form? And then you just wait for the answer, and that's it. Okay. That's the selling process, wonderful people. So I want you, there's at the end of this, we're all done with the process, but there's a couple of things I want you to remember. Always keep this question in the back of your mind. 3 key points down at the bottom of 29. Do I have enough information to make an intelligent presentation? You are constantly making sure that all the flags in your head are green, constantly. Because number 2, when you obtain limited information, you're going to have limited success. It's that simple. And then 3, they are choosing to let you be a part of their lives for a reason. It's whether they enjoy your company and they want to establish a relationship. It's because you're honest with them. So if you're an analytical or a driver that really isn't much into relationships, but you are into truth and honesty, they'll see that, they'll respect that, and they'll want to be a part of your lives because of that. All right. So now some final thoughts. Number 1, once you have gained a commitment, stop selling. Ask them to buy. All right. And it can happen, like I told you, it can happen anywhere in the process. Man, where am I here? Yeah, we'll get to that. Stop selling, because a lot of sales get lost because the rep continues to talk, and then all of a sudden red flags start popping up in the client's mind. Once you've got them and they're hot, stop and ask them to buy. All right. And if they're saying, oh, no, keep going, I want to hear more, then you just keep going. But if you know that they're ready to go, stop selling, because once you get them on the credit card form or the contract or whatever it is, you can go into post selling, where you can talk about the travel insurance and all the other things that they needed to talk about that hasn't been brought up yet, but you know you need to cover it because they asked about it. That's called post selling. And so you're going to get all your information out there, but it's critical that if you recognize they're ready to go, you get them right there. And number 3, I want you to circle this, star it, highlight it in yellow, cut it out, tape it to your forehead, your car dash, your briefcase. Listening is the single biggest asset of the selling process. Remember, you control the conversation by the questions you ask, not by the statements you make. It's really that simple. And this is on the test. Finally, you're continually summarizing what you know, and then you're gaining agreement on what you have summarized. So this is the summary of what it is that you're doing. So you've done the process, you've got them. Now you're back out in your car and you're going, whoa, I got a sale. Or you're going, oh crap, what just happened? So the key, and this is probably the 3rd or 4th time we've talked about that, the key is this 5 golden minutes. What'd you do right? What'd you do wrong? What could I have done better? Did I miss something? If you got the sale, no. If you didn't get the sale, yeah, you missed something. Did I get a referral? This is the point where you ask them for a referral. And you go, wow, I'm really glad we're going to be doing business with each other. Is there anybody else that you know that would be interested in what we have to offer? Or, gosh, I'm really sorry that we couldn't get together on this. Is there any one of your friends or family that might have an interest in what it is that we do and would be interested in talking with me? Nothing ventured, nothing gained. It's that simple. And this question right here, did you get the referral? This is how you build your business. You've gained a client. Now you want to gain more clients. All right. It's really, really that easy. And then finally, if this is the culmination of the process, I wouldn't send them an Instagram or an email or a Facebook post. I would actually send them a card, a thank you card. Number 1, they're going to be really pleasantly surprised because nobody does that anymore. And it's going to let them know that whether or not you got the contract, they know that you still care about them. And chances are, if you didn't get them, but you send them a thank you note, what you can do in your thank you note is you just say, good luck on your trip. Have a lot of fun. Would it be okay if I called you when you got back to see how your trip went? Or would you consider me for another trip, assuming this one, assuming this trip went good, but is there something we could have done better? There's something I could have helped you with. Whatever it is, let them know that you're still interested in the relationship. A lot of people say just because somebody said no to you the first time, they're going to say no to you constantly. One of my best friends in the yearbook business was calling on this one school for 20 years. And on the 21st year, he finally got him. And it was the same advisor. He would go in once a year. She finally said, you know what? I'm tired of what I'm doing. Let's talk. And it was a big school. And he got him 20 years later. He got him. So you just never know. Never give up on anything ever in this lifetime. All right. That's how you're going to grow your business. Now, again, this is where the stalls come in, and we're going to talk about this. Never, ever leave the timing of any decision up to the client, because I told you, if you let them get away with, well, I need to think about it, I'll get back to you, they're not going to get back to you. So when they give you a stall, and I wanted to save this for last, when they give you a stall, you say, I'm here right now. What is it that you need to think about? Maybe there's a question I didn't answer. Maybe there's something going on in your mind that we could talk about and maybe solve it right here on the spot. No, I just need to. I process things really slowly. I said, okay, great. Tell you what, today is Tuesday, 1:30. How long do you think it will take you to process all of this information? Oh, let me call you in 2 days. Now, tell you what, I will call you. In fact, why don't we set up, let's get together for coffee, either here at your house or we can meet someplace and we can finish this conversation. Say, today's Tuesday, how about Thursday at 1:30? And if they say, no, that doesn't work for me, say, give me a time, I'll be there. And I've done that a lot. You tell me when and where, and I will move heaven and earth to make it happen. If they continue to stall, then you just flat out tell them, okay, I tell you what, I am going to give you a call at Thursday at 1:30 to see where you are, and maybe we can answer any questions, because as Jose really always says, a lot of these travel deals are contingent on time because they're very short-lived. Don't be afraid to pull that card out. Even if it's not true, don't be afraid to pull that card out. You want to get them committed to you, even if it's just to talk one more time. All right. So don't ever walk away without your next appointment if you don't have the contract. And then finally, these, my wonderful people, these are the skills that we presented. These are all in the back of your manual. So it's on the very last page, on page 34. These are the skills that we have gone through that, because I'm an archer, I'm saying these are the arrows in your quiver. So pull them out and use them whenever you can. And you'll notice the establishing behavior is where almost half of them sit. So, I mean, it's establishing the relationship. And then finally, those of you that have been through all 7 of these, and you've got all your notes ready to go, you can earn the Archer Travel sales training course. We can give you this certificate. I will send you a test. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then if it takes 80%, it's 40 questions. It takes 80% to pass the test. And then once you pass the test, I make notes on your test on the ones that you missed, so that you can go back and do a little research on where you went wrong, along with the certificate. And then these 2 logos, a smaller one for like your emails and stuff, and then a larger one if you want to put it on your letterhead or whatever you want to do. This small one's good for websites. This one's pretty much only good for letterhead and stuff. And then, so send me a request via email, and I'll send you the test with the 40 questions. You can edit your answers, and then right there on that test, I mean, it's just a Word document. So you just open it up, enable editing, type your answers in, and then send it back to me. It's open book, and there's no time limit. So 80% passes, and then you'll get your test back. Yeah, my notes on the thing you missed and the certificates. If you have any questions at all, give me a holler, Mike@archertravel.com, or you can call me on my phone. I'm just sitting up there in Seattle having a good time. 206-979-4249. And there's my cheesy grin on my mugshot. And that's it. Amanda, do we have any questions?
Great. We don't have any questions at the moment, but if you think of any questions, like Mike said, don't hesitate to reach out to him. You can email him or call him, and he's happy to help you.
Okay, guys, that's it. Thank you for sticking with this for the last 7 weeks. I look forward to seeing your emails on wanting to take the test. And if you missed anything, you can go back into the Travel Cafe. Amanda's told you a million times where these videos live. And those of you that want to continue on, I'm going to be off next week. We're going down to see Mom. Actually, I'll be on Jose's Friday morning briefing this week because we're going to be down seeing Mom. And so I will see you then if you tune in. Otherwise, I'll be back in 2 weeks if you want to start over. See you later.